G'day, lawn care operators, and welcome to the next edition of the We Love Lawns and Gardens podcast. If you're tuning in for the first time, the We Love Lawns and Gardens podcast is designed purely to help lawn care business owners improve their business, understand their business, and make a business that's profitable, enjoyable, and fun to work in through lessons that I've learned within my business, We Love Lawns and Gardens. Personally, I've been in the lawn care industry for 10 years and like to share all the journey that I've been on in order to make the We Love Lawns and Gardens business extremely fun, profitable, well planned out, and well controlled business. We've got some pretty cool news. We've had a really exciting week. Through the week, we shared a podcast with Into the Green podcast with BJ Wallace. BJ is one of the goats, I would say, of the lawn care industry. So it was really great. We sat down, had a good chat for around 2 hours. And, if you haven't heard that yet, look into the Green podcast with BJ Wallace. Had a really good chat with him. Shared some really good ideas and was really exciting for me, being quite new to the podcast industry. Being able to sit down with one of the people that have been doing it for so long was really fantastic. So thanks to BJ. And if you haven't listened to that podcast, there's some really good, so listen up. You'll get a little bit of an idea of the journey that I've been on, also what BJ does within his business. So there's some cool tips in there for anyone that's interested. Today, we've got a really exciting episode and it's extremely relevant at the moment. I want to talk to you about moving from your summer schedule into your winter schedule. So all the people out there that are in the lawn care industry will know that you'll essentially have, it's seasonal work, right? So we're going to move out of the hotter months where we're cutting lawns, whether it be weekly or fortnightly, into cutting 3 weekly, monthly, or whatever you have set up for your business. But we're going to share some ideas on how to do it, when to do it, why you do it, when you do it, all that sort of stuff. So here in Sydney, where I currently work, for the people out there, I guess I'm still mowing lawns within my business. We're doing this podcast, but also I am still mowing lawns. So still running the We Love Lawns and Gardens business. As you could hear from that podcast, if you've listened to it, I've reduced my business down to being a sole operator. So it's just me cutting, but at different times we've had 4 or 5 people working within our business, all cutting lawns on one single day. So we're first time actually, as we've reduced our size of our business, that we're moving into a change of our schedule. In Sydney at the moment, we've been blessed, I guess, with some rain. We're still getting a lot of rain. So usually there's going to be 2 things that's going to change that time that you change over on your schedule. The first one's going to be how hot it still is. So every year that sort of chops and changes. And the second one is going to be rain. At the moment, we're still getting pretty good temperatures and we're still getting quite a bit of rain here in Sydney. But I'm sort of interested to know what other people, how they're experiencing, different parts of Australia, what that looks like in, sort of northern Queensland and places like that. And if they're still getting rain and they're still getting grass growth within the season, and if they're still actively cutting every 2 weeks, and what that kind of looks like for them. If you're in Sydney, you'll probably find that the grass growth is starting to slow down. So the growth's going to come through the heat within the soil temperatures. At the moment, it's still pretty good. So we're still getting some growth. And personally, I am and still think that it's viable to be cutting every 2 weeks. Essentially, as business owners, what you want to be doing is you want to be dragging that out as long as you can. Every year we have a different time that we actually swap over. Sometimes we've swapped over at the end of March. It's looking like this year we're going to drag out to go from fortnightly cuts into monthly cuts at the end of April. So we're going to try and get another 3 weeks 3 weeks out of it. And that's been the case for the last 2 seasons, that we've got all of April out of it as much as we can. I think one of the important things to remember is while you're not cutting lawns, you're not making any money. So if you can drag it out to April and, as far as you can and kind of get away with it, and the grass is still growing, then why not do it? And why not make that money? So if this is your first year in business, if this is the first time going from summer to winter, This will help you out understanding when to do it and why we're actually going to do it. One of the big things you hear a lot of, and it was when I first started my first business, all those like glass half empty sort of people out there have probably already said to you, that's great, you want to start a lawn mowing business, but what are you going to do over the winter time? So there is that dreaded winter time that people talk about at the start and I guess worry about. And essentially, from your mowing perspective, you're going to cut your workload in half, aren't you? So you're going to go from, as I say, every 2 weeks to every 4 weeks. Literally, your mowing is going to be cut in half, which means the money from what you're mowing is going to be cut in half. What I will say to that is every season you go on and on and on and make it through that winter period, you're essentially going to get better at doing it. It's going to be more relaxed. So if you are doing it for the first time in first year or the second year or whatever, and last year was a real hassle and real hard and real stressful, you were sort of had days where you had no work or you were always like hustling around for work. It does get easier the more you go on. You feel more relaxed as you go through that year on year on year. At the moment where I am, and if I take last year when we had lots of staff as another measure of how stressful it was, it actually comes around pretty quickly. We are lucky enough to have a lot of customers, I guess, at that time, and we could pull on those customers to do other jobs within their business. So we could do garden cleanups, hedging, gardening, and all that sort of thing. But what I will say as a first thing is now is the time that we want to be looking around for what those other jobs look like. If it is April that we're going to go through and then switch over to 2 weekly for May, now is where you want to be looking at all your current customers, what sort of jobs that they could be having done within their business, within their homes, and start making notes on what you are going to do or what you're going to suggest and quote for them when you hit those winter months. So some things that you want to be looking out for. You want to be looking out for gardening. So whether that's hedging, in big plant reductions, that type of thing, start looking out for them as you're mowing lawns at the moment. You want to be looking out for weeds. So if there are garden beds that people have that you can pull out weeds and perhaps like put down some new mulch. A lot of people go to like gutter cleaning. So, there might be some house with lots of overhanging trees. You might just jump up on a ladder and check their gutters. So that could be something you suggest. And then as you're making all these notes over all of your customers, you want to be starting when you hit that winter schedule to go to your customers and say, whether it's now or then, you want to be saying to them like, look, hey, I've noticed that back garden, it's really overcrowded. It could do with some hedging. It could do with some weeding. It could do with some mulching. Would you be happy for us to provide you with a quote? Because as you know, when we go into our winter period, our mowing's going to reduce, but there's some gardening tasks that we think that we can do that's going to make this space look really good. From a homeowner's point of view, while they're not getting their mowing done, they're actually spending less money as well, right? So I guess it's a good time. Like people aren't really going to be doing their budgets around their gardens and their mowing and all of that sort of thing based on that summer winter schedule. So essentially people might have some more money to be able to spend at that time over winter to make their gardens and everything look good. The other thing is like usually if we're running a really full schedule, so our mowing is full every day, often there'll be gardening and that will be done or need to be done that we actually can't get to. So that's a pretty common one. People will be mowing. People will actually want to have their gutters cleaned out or maybe their gardening done or whatever, but we just don't have time because our schedules are so full. Now's the perfect time to start planting that seed in your customers' heads and trying to actually understand what they want done. Let them know, Mrs. Jones, I've got a little bit more time at the moment. I can actually come around and do that gardening that you want. Or the best way to do it is to be starting to be on the front foot and actually be suggesting to people, I can do your gardening now in the first week of May or whatever it is. The other thing that we can start to do now is actually set up our schedule. So different people are going to be using different scheduling apps, different scheduling software. Now is a time that in the background, you can start to actually set it up. What I will say is, in the summertime when you've just got, lots and lots of mowing, lots of stuff to do, it can be easy to get a new customer and just chuck them into your schedule wherever they kind of fit. Or you might have a day that's a little bit lean on customers, so you might just slot people in, even though like logistically it's not the best place for them to go. Now is a really good time to start actually setting up your schedule and set it up in the most cost effective way with the least amount of travel time that you actually can. I think, however you do it, however you run your schedule at the moment, whether it's by each town or suburb or a day of commercial and a day of residential or whatever it actually is, now is the time to really be able to sit down and review it and make sure that you get it right. There's always ways, like I think over the summertime, always get pushed a little bit out of shape by, just the busyness of what you're actually doing. And I think it can be one of those ways where if you're sitting down now, you can say, well, that job actually works better with that run. Or you may completely get like a whole run, chop it in half and split it with another one or whatever that might be. But now that you've got a little bit of time to actually think about it, you'll probably always find that within your schedule, there's a better way or a new way or an easier way to actually do it. So now you can sort of lay out all your jobs, put them out on a table or, print them all out and have a look at them, like physically sit down and look at them and say, this job would go better with here, this job would go better with here, and chop and change it around so that it's the most efficient way of actually running that run for the day. It can take a little bit of time. I think that's the big thing, is like to actually get it right, it can take a bit of time. But the thing you have to understand is once you lock it in, you are pretty much set. Exactly the same thing when you're going from winter into summer. You take that time to get it right, but when it's locked in, it just goes on to that fortnightly schedule. Every Tuesday or whatever day you have decided for your customers, you just lock it in and then you just execute that plan for them right throughout the summertime, and you don't have to change it if you get it right now. The other tip I've got is when you're setting it up. So if you've got, say, like week A and week B on a fortnightly, what you want to do, or one thing that we found has really worked well for us over time, is we've had seasons where we've put the two A and B together. So if you've got 4 weeks, we've gone week A and B, and then we've had 2 weeks of nothing. Well, not nothing, but we've had 2 weeks of trying to hustle for gardening. The tip I'll give you over a month is, if you've got monthly cuts for week A and B, split them over a couple of weeks. So if it's, week 1 of the month, do your week A schedule, leave the next week as open, and then put B as week 3 and then leave it open again. The reason being, if you've got 2 weeks of mowing and then 2 weeks of gardening and gutter cleaning and pressure washing or whatever you're going to do to hustle through those times, you're not actually getting the mower out. And what you want to be doing is trying to have it split so that you've got like a week of mowing, and then if you miss a week or whatever it is, or miss a job, you don't have too long to actually fit it into the schedule again before you can do it. So over a 4-week period, have your mowing weeks set up every 2 weeks. So do it week A, week 1, have the week off for gardening. Week B goes into week 3, and then week 4 is your gardening again. The thing I'll say about those off weeks, so the weeks where we're doing gardening and that sort of thing, is you're going to have to actually hustle to fill that up. As you get on, you've probably got more jobs, and you probably actually just want to have a bit more of a rest and have some more days off and that sort of thing. But you are going to have to actually hustle to fill those days up. Some of the things that we can do, as I said before, is with the gardening jobs, like if you're filling up like a whole day or 2 days or 3 days with like big garden cleanups or mulching jobs, or you've lined up a whole thing of gutter cleaning, make sure that you're actually really hustling, because what you'll find is when you're actually suggesting these things to people, it could take them like a week to actually come around and think, okay, yeah, let's do that. Then you've got to book it in. Then you've got to organize stuff like mulch and all of that. So there can be a little bit of a lag in actually trying to get the job. So you've got to just have that constant hustle, and it's got to start now in how you're actually going to organize the jobs. The next thing is the communication piece. So how are you going to actually communicate to your customers? There's two sides to it. The first thing, in previous podcasts we've talked about at the quoting process. So all of the jobs that you've currently got now, when you're quoting them, you should have let them know that it's fortnightly cuts in summer, it's winter, monthly cuts in winter. What I will normally say, so if it's within my business, I will say to people, okay, when we go into our winter schedule, it's going to be sometime around April. It's always going to chop and change each year, depending on the weather, depending on how hot it is, depending on how much rain we get. So we will actually message you and let you know when we're going to change over to our winter schedule. And then for us, as soon as spring hits, so the 1st of September is when we always, regardless of how hot, cold, rain, blah, 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 how no change with the weather, we always go 1st of September to change over to our summer schedule. So we'll always let people know before. If they're new customers, you forgot to let them know, you can let them know now, or you should have been letting them know that like our winter schedule is coming. From the communication piece, one thing that might start to creep in is people, if they're not getting the growth in the grass, they'll start to try and cancel out on mowing at the moment. So we haven't really had it this year yet because I guess the grass is still growing quite well. But when you're trying to drag out that April month with fortnightly cuts, you'll often get people come and say, hey, I want to skip this service because there's no growth in the grass. The way that we would answer that within our business, and everyone's a bit different and can do it a little bit differently, but the way that we would handle that question is say, look, at the moment, we're still running on a fortnightly schedule. Are going to change over at the end of this month. So we can't actually cut your lawn next week. We're still doing fortnightly schedule. And as of next month, we'll send you out an email and let you know that we've moved to monthly. Part of it is about just owning your shit, really. It's about saying this is how we do things. If you want to deal with our business, this is how we do it. While, sometimes you are actually going to a place and it doesn't quite need mowing, you'll be very surprised that once you run the mower over it and pick up a few leaves and cut in the edges and everything like that again, that you will be surprised that it will look a lot neater. And then that's going to give you that conviction to keep selling that message of, no, we're not skipping services now. We're doing fortnightly cuts and we're going to change over in the April month as soon as that hits. So the next part of the communication is that you've got to let everyone know. So we would do that at the moment by email. We'd probably follow them up with a text message from memory. Send everyone the text message to say, we are now moving over to our winter schedule. As you know from previous years, we are now going to monthly cuts. It doesn't have to be a long-winded message. I think it's just, let the customer know we're going to monthly now. Your new day is going to be Tuesday if there's some sort of change. If not, you're just letting them know we're starting on this date. So it might be 14th of April, Tuesdays, and then it's going to be monthly on the Tuesday from there. Being that there's going to be a month in between cuts now, you want to kind of keep that messaging short and sweet, I think, because you don't want customers sitting around and waiting and managing it and everything like that. You just want to lock it into your schedule. We use Sortscape, so we lock that into that, and then every month it just reoccurs and we go out and do the mowing. You might want to put some messaging in there just to plant the seed with people. You might want to sort of say, hey, we're in monthly cuts now till the first week of September, where we're going to flick back to fortnightly cuts. So that way you've already sent that message, you've planted the seed in their head, you've let them know, and when it hits that springtime, even if the weather's not quite there for the growth, you flick it over and you get into the fortnightly cuts from there. It can be a bit of a stressful time. So it can be a time where I guess you will be looking at what you have for the next week of work and you don't actually have anything. Just keep in mind that you just keep hustling, you keep picking up jobs, you might up your advertising, you might put some stuff on Facebook, all of those things to try and get some extra work. When you talk about your advertising, you might be just chasing mowing work over summer. So it might be all about mowing on your social media. You might have pictures on Facebook, social community pages. It might be all mowing, mowing, mowing. But what you want to start to do is triggering customers' heads that now is the time to start to get into some gardening work, or now is the time that we can cut big hedges down, or now's a good time to mulch your garden beds. You might put some before and after pictures on a Facebook page. You might put some hedges that you've done on a Facebook page. You got to think advertising is all about showing people what you can actually do and triggering something in their head that they actually need what you're advertising. So, there might be a guy that's looking at a huge hedge out in his backyard. He wants to cut it down. He never quite gets to it. He's happy to pay someone to do it, but he's not going to go and chase someone to do it. But if you're putting that in front of him, so it might be on a Facebook page, big, before and after pictures of a huge hedge that you've cut in the past, put that in there, start advertising now and start planting seeds for people, because you'd be surprised how many people out there actually need gardening work done, and you'd be surprised how many mowing operators don't actually do that work over summertime or want to do that work in general. So the thing is, now start planting the seed in your advertising, get right into, really hustling, start telling people, your customers, we're moving into winter, if there's any gardening that you want done, now's the time to do it, because we're going to start looking for some gardening work. And you'll find that you'll slowly start picking up work. You might be doing a job in a street and someone else in the street sees your car or whatever. But I guess the big thing is don't stress, because that time can go really quickly. But also don't just sit on your heels, because if you just sit back and just think that the work's going to come to you, perhaps it won't. And you'll have some weeks where you're not making any actual money. The scheduling side of things, we currently use Sortscape. We find it really good. Essentially, we can just click on a run. You can bulk that run all together so that you're selecting all of the jobs within a day, and you can change the frequency of it from 2 weeks to 4 weeks. That is something that works really well for us. We've found that Sortscape's been really great. It's helped us schedule all our jobs. And when you're dealing with a lot of jobs, there's people out there that are going from hundreds to 200s to 300 jobs within their system and their network and on their books. So I think if you're using some sort of scheduling app, there's usually going to be functions, if it's lawnmower specific, to be able to change that time over from, a 2 weekly cut to a 4 weekly cut. The other trick that you've got is, if you're going to go from 2 weeks, so week A and B, and you're going to split it, you'll have to think about how you schedule things so that you're not just essentially turning them both from a 2 weekly to 4 weekly on your schedule, because that's going to keep both of those weeks together. As I said earlier, you want to try and split them so you're going week on mowing, week off. So you're going to have to give one of them a 3 weekly cut just to change up the 2 weekly schedule that you've got now. If that doesn't make sense, just reach out and let me know. But essentially week A, you're going to probably have to go for a 3 weekly cut to start with. And then week B, you're going to have to do it at a monthly cut, and that will split them from the time that you've got it, because they're staggering the starts. It can be a time, as I said before, it can be a time that can be a bit stressful. So if you are starting out and you're stressed out about this time of year, you might not have a lot of cash flow within your business. Just know that it will come around quickly, and just have that mindset that every dollar counts. I think if you're thinking that every little, you might have someone come around that wants a hedge done and it's only $100. Now's the time to do it. Now's the time to really value every sort of $100 that you have coming your way, because lots of $100 make thousands of dollars. And at the end of the month, you'll be glad that you hustled and did those little jobs that perhaps you don't have time to do, or you don't want to do, or you don't need to do over the summertime, because you're making enough money and you don't have the time. Especially at the start of your journey, really hustle hard on those little jobs to just get by and makes like lots of 70, 80, 100, $150 end up being probably enough to pay yourself at the end of the week. And sometimes just paying yourself is enough. For the guys that are out there that have been doing this for many years, we kind of were at the stage where we got to this at the end, but you've got your staff working for you. Keep your staff busy if you've got them on full time. It is a business that I will say it is good to get some rest time for your body, for your mind, for everything like that. And just, I'm not saying just put your feet up and have a rest over winter time, but for the guys that have been doing this for a while and can afford to do it, just give yourself a day off here and there. You might do some book work or set up some advertising or whatever it may be, but I think my message will be is that just be a bit kind on yourself over winter. I find that these types of businesses that are seasonal, like lawn mowing, that are quite physically taxing, that can be mentally taxing because you've got a lot of moving parts, just keep in mind that you want to just give yourself a little bit of rest. So if the way that we did it is I would keep all my staff working. So all the staff would keep working through the winter time, and I'd probably work 2-3 days a week on the tools. I'd still do stuff within the business, but just, I think it's good because when you come into spring again and you start doing renos and you're mowing and you're flat out again, very quickly it becomes December and you're working 12 hours again. I find that these businesses are, you're kind of working at 150% sort of through the summertime, and you're probably working at 75% through winter. Give yourself a bit of a rest if it's a business that you've got good cash flow in and you can actually afford to do it. It's almost, detrimental, I think, to just be working flat stick, like right throughout summer, winter, hustle, 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 the more. Eventually, I think you're probably going to start to get or feel a little bit burnt out. And winter's a great time to just sort of get on top of things, rest the body a little bit, give yourself a day off here and there, work on your mental health, do those sorts of things, and get yourself ready and in a good shape for when summer comes again. Equipment wise, winter can be a great time to just get on top of your equipment, get organized again, start servicing some things that may have sort of lagged out a little bit, organize your toolboxes, organize your trailers. I know myself, when it's just like go, go, go over the summertime, it's like you're just accumulating stuff in your toolboxes. Your car can get grass all through it. Your car can get all crap through it. So winter time can be a really good time to actually strategically just lock in a day to clean out your ute, clean out your toolboxes, clean out your trailers. It can be a really good time to service your ride-on mowers, service your push mowers, like just get everything working really, really well that may have been something that you've either been holding off on or didn't have time to do over the summertime. So I think in summarizing it, if you're just starting out, hustle as hard as you can for jobs. Don't get too down if you have to have a day off, but use that day to do your equipment or get organized or set up more advertising. If you've been doing it for many, many years, you've got good cash flow, you've made good money in the last season, enjoy a bit of a rest. It's nice to have a day off here and there and recoup, mentally get in a good shape, because as soon as that summer comes again, we all know how crazy it can be. So enjoy that rest. And if people are sort of struggling with the idea of what they can do over winter, reach out. I'm happy to talk to people. You can reach out on our Instagram page, which is Joshua Scott Coaching. If you look us up on Facebook, you can go to We Love Lawns and Gardens. Just send through questions. You might have, you might be like, I don't really know what to do over winter. I don't know what sort of jobs I can pick up. You might have a gutter cleaning job, but you don't know how to do it. Any of that sort of thing. I'm happy to answer any questions and help people out with that. We've now gone through many winters unscathed. We've always had work to do over winter. So I'm happy to help out anyone that may be starting out. This podcast, I was sort of sitting down, I guess, over the last week and really thinking about the direction of the podcast and what we want to do. As I said before, this is to help out business owners improve their business. The new thing that I'm thinking is each topic each week, if we can be just helping out one person with one of the topics that we speak about, then it's going to be job done. We really thank everyone that's been listening. We have been getting more and more numbers each week, which is really pleasing. We find that, if people are actually out in the field working on the mower, out doing hedging, and they can listen to this and actually get something out of it that's going to help them improve their business, going to be job done. If anyone's got a business, they want to have a chat, they want to set up a podcast, reach out. We're happy to sit down and talk to people. I would love to pick apart people's businesses and actually understand what they do. Perhaps being that we're business coaches as well, we can offer little strategic things that people might be able to help. And I'm keen to do that on an actual podcast, so we can sit down and live go through what people are doing within their business, offer some suggestions, and just have a bit of a yarn about, their business and how they do things. And every time we speak to someone, every time I coach someone, not only are they learning something, but I'm learning. Everyone does something different in their business. And what that's doing for us and our coaching clients, it's helping us implement different ways of how people do things within their business and how people can improve. So overall, I'm just trying to build this really great community in the lawn care industry, which is the industry that I love. It's the industry that I've been in for many, many years. It's the place that I'm seeing people kick goals every single day, whether it's through watching posts on LMCA, whether it's through coaching people, through our business, Joshua Scott Coaching, or whether it's just researching things with podcasts and YouTube channels like this. One thing I'll leave people with is stay safe out there. Watch the fuel thing. If people are sort of struggling with fuel in the town that they're in at the moment, we've done a podcast with the one before this. Listen to that. We talk about people being able to keep a week's worth of fuel and some other tips in how they can sort of get through this little thing if the fuel crisis is actually affecting their business. So hope everyone's safe. Hope they've got fuel. Hope they're keeping a week's worth of fuel in case something happens. And as you move into that summer to winter schedule, if you need any help with it, reach out, because it's a time where it's a real chance to get everything within your schedule working really well together. And if you're new, hustle hard. If you've been doing your business for a while, enjoy Lawns and Gardens podcast. My name's Joshua Scott. If you want some business coaching, reach out to us on Instagram, Joshua Scott Coaching. We've got also our Facebook page, which is We Love Lawns and Gardens. You can reach us there, and we look forward to speaking to you again next week. We'll have another topic which will be relevant within the industry at the moment. But until then, enjoy this podcast. Any questions, comments that you may have, leave them here. Like and follow our page, which will help us get into more and more lawnies' ears and help improve the next person in the lawn care industry for their business. And we look forward to chatting to you soon.